What's up, everyone? Wave here. Today got this one right here. What should we expect from the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree DLC? Let's react to it.
Yeah, so this is going to be a video about one image that appears in one tweet that simply tells us that Elden Ring's DLC is coming.
Yep.
And I'm going to try and make this a good video because, yes, I am going to present some truly unhinged speculation about
many people think this is Miquella.
the contents of the DLC, but most importantly, this is actually the perfect excuse to discuss a few things that we haven't dived into yet on this channel.
Okay.
For example, we've yet to discuss Torrent, whose mysterious origins are clearly being teased here, and I also want to talk about the dark side of the Erdtree, which is absolutely a huge part of the lore already. So my goal in this video, even if my predictions are wrong, is to at least gear you up with some knowledge about the game's lore that you can take with you no matter where the DLC actually takes us. And my other goal with this video is to let you know that my art book is currently 10% off for a limited time. First and foremost, let's talk about who is riding Torrent in this image, because out of everything I talk about in this video, this is
Wait, is it really Torrent? Or could it be like a similar breed, like we don't know at all?
That I'm most certain of. Now, at first, when I saw this, my mind went immediately to it being Queen Marika, because of that braided golden hair. They're also riding Torrent sitting in a side saddle manner, which was historically a way for a woman to sit on horseback with dignity while wearing a dress.
Could be
the
as well.
character is also wearing a similarly placed upper armband. So while it's definitely possible that this could be a young Marika, I still think that that's nowhere near as likely as the alternative I'm about to suggest, which is that
Miquella?
this person is Miquella,
Miquella,
who was
yeah.
one of Marika's many demigod
Also.
children. So item descriptions and dialogue all refer to Miquella as a he. However, Miquella does have the feminine side to match the person riding Torrent in this image. Like literally, they have a feminine alter ego called Saint Trina. If any of
Just like Windolin.
this is news to you, then I recommend you go and watch my recent 47-minute long lore video on Miquella that explains so much about their character. But in that video, I talked about all the known statues of Miquella, which feature them in a long garb that actually cuts off at the elbow, and looking back, this is the exact same garb that this character is wearing. What's more, the hair here, while it is braided like Marika's, it's also long and flowing, and just the style is identical to Miquella's, as you can clearly see in the opening cinematic.
I think this is 90% Miquella. Like, truly.
Marika's hair, by contrast, is always symbolically depicted as two standalone braids. And not to mention, depictions of Marika are always of her in full womanhood, but this figure is meek and they're childlike by comparison. So, in my eyes, this is definitely Miquella, who was cursed to eternal childhood. Also, in regards to the tweet, it does say, "Rise tarnished and let us walk a new path together," which kind of reminds me of what I said in the recent Miquella video, where I speculated a lot about how Miquella's intent might be to plant a new world order, and perhaps to walk a new path. So, if we are correctly assuming that this is Miquella, then we can also finally start to unravel the mystery surrounding Torrent, your spectral steed. And that's important, because Torrent is not just some random mount. He's a full-on character, and for whatever reason, he chose you as his tarnished, down to the very moment where he sniffs you out in the stranded graveyard. Melina is actually an unwitting part of this plan to find and guide you. She has no real memory or knowledge of whatever plot that she's a part of, beyond following Torrent's own guidance, which she then passes on to you by giving you a golden ring, which doubles as a whistle. Someone who does seem to know a bit more about Torrent is Ranni, who, you might remember, at the very start of the game, entrusts you with 3 lone wolf spirits, and they give you a spirit calling bell as well, and Ranni says that these are from Torrent's former master.
I'd heard tell of a tarnished hurking about atop a spectral steed. I was entrusted this for thee, by Torrent's former master.
Now, you could argue that she's referring to Melina as Torrent's former master here,
But he probably thinks that it's Miquella.
then that doesn't really make sense, because why would Rani bother to hide Melena's identity as Torrent's former master if we've met Melina already? So I think that Torrent's former master is surely some other third party, someone who is clearly very in tune with spirits, considering Torrent is himself a spirit, and considering the spirit calling bell and the 3 lone wolves are all from the same person. Speaking of the 3 wolf spirits, there's actually a relief in Farah Missoula that depicts 3 wolves crowded around a small, slight figure. Whoever owned Torrent would have also owned the 3 wolf spirits, so I've always wondered if this image was depicting Torrent's former master. And whoever Torrent's former master was, they were someone that was able to compel both Melina and Rani to seek you out on their behalf. My best guess until now was that it was Marika doing this, as we know she goes to great lengths to help the Tarnished. Even Hugh forges weapons for you on Marika's behalf, and he even speaks of a spirit caller that he once knew. So yeah, I always thought the spirit caller might have been Marika until now, because considering this image, I think we really have to entertain the possibility that Torrent's former master could have been Mikola. As you may know, Mikola had a famous ability to compel the affection and loyalty of others, so it's also very easy to think then that Rani, Melina, Torrent, and even Hugh might have intervened to assist you on Mikola's behalf. Mikola was also a talented craftsman who might have crafted the golden spectral steed whistle ring. Anyway, for now this is just all speculation, but at the very least, I think we are getting closer to learning about Torrent's former master here, for sure. And finally, what's with the dark Erdtree in the distance? This is the last thing I want to discuss, because this is the thing I think you can be the least sure of, and I'm kind of just going to throw a lot of theories at the wall and see if anything sticks. But it's a really fascinating concept, so whatever this tree is, whatever's happened to this Erdtree, it's weeping gold, and it does still seem to be a source of light, just like the Erdtree is in-game, except now it has a weak golden.
Yeah, it is clearly bleeding, like many people told me that it is some kind of thunder, like destroyed the tree or something, but I think that's not it. I think it's just bleeding resin or something.
Light that filters from behind its branches. At first, I thought it might be Mikola's Halig tree, which does seem to curve in a similar manner, and as we discussed in this video, Mikola's Halig tree is a sort of Erdtree, although it is an Erdtree that has already split and withered, so I'm not that drawn to this theory. And actually, if you look closely, it's almost as if there's 2 trees here, one that is straighter, like the Erdtree, that has a streak of gold within it, and a light filtering behind its branches, and then there's another tree that is almost twisting around it, almost as if it's strangling the Erdtree, and literally could be sapping the vitality from it. A
parasite, perhaps, you know? Like, we know that below the Erdtree were like the roots of the Erdtree, but maybe it could be some kind of other organism, you know? Probably. I don't know.
Only entity
just some wild speculation
I'd think would be capable of this, in the current game at least, would be Godwin's Black Deathroot. This would certainly explain...
Like the Deathroot bed and shit, it's all below the Erdtree capital.
Color of the trees, the strangling behavior, and the sort of black falling decay that they have. And if Mikola is part of this DLC, then you'd think that Godwin would be a part of things as well, considering how entwined their histories are. But of course, this is all just one line of speculation. You can go down so many. You can also try to think about when this event might occur, and I feel like you can make valid arguments for and against it being in almost every time period. If it's in the past, that explains Mikola's healthy state and Torrent being unsaddled by you, but then it doesn't explain the state of the Erdtree. And if it's in the future, then it might suggest that this takes place after you become Elden Lord. But then, what if I chose the frenzy?
Like, this was the first time the Soul series went after the ending, because every DLC and every Souls game is just like before the ending, and it's something you need to clear before you like have finished the game. This could be something completely different, perhaps. I would love to see something like that, because having just another new area, which is like bit unique, I guess, and very well designed. I hope so, at least. It's interesting, but it's something they've tackled already like so many times. It's insane.
Ending. How does Miquella
Like,
just
I would really appreciate something new, at least.
take Torrent from you? Shouldn't Miquella's future be with Moog? And then there's the theory that this could be some sort of alternate reality altogether, whether that's in the past, present, or future. And
Please
I
not.
quite like this idea, considering Miquella has a whole storyline where they also exist within some sort of dreamscape as their alias, which is Saint Trina. And also, the landscape here doesn't really look like the lands between that we know. The mountains seem too low, the wheat field seems too vast, so what if this is some sort of spirit realm? And speaking of spirit realms,
Well,
the
yeah,
Erdtree being black, and the spirit graves, and Torrent, who is also a spirit, these things make me want to talk about the black lampwood of the Helfen. To a lot of you, those random words I just said probably made no sense. They're actually words that only really show up in one item description. But if you weren't aware, the Helfen is described as being a sort of dark counterpart to the Erdtree in the sense that it also offers a type of guidance, except its guidance is offered to the heroic dead of the spirit world. We talk more about the Helfen and the Lampwood and this guidance in this video on death. So if you're interested in speculating down that particular rabbit hole, I'd recommend that video. To be honest though, Shadow of the Erdtree is such an extremely evocative title that there really are so many things that I think it could be referring to. For example, a big part of me wonders if we're supposed to reject the first impression that this image gives us. Remember when Elden Ring's first cinematic trailer dropped and everyone thought that Radagon was shattering the Elden Ring?
Yeah.
That's clearly what the trailer wanted you to think, considering the narration, but really, Radagon was actually repairing the Elden Ring, and the true story was way more complex. So I feel like we shouldn't rule out the possibility that this image might not depict the Erdtree dying. What if this image is instead depicting a scene from long ago, back when the Erdtree was first coming into existence? This is an idea I put forward in my earliest lore video for Elden Ring, and in that video I stated that an existing great tree might have been taken over by the parasitic golden Erdtree, and I admit I was way too sure of myself when I presented that theory. I basically presented it as fact, which was wrong. However, I still think that that theory has some validity, because we do know that a crucible of chaotic life existed within the primordial Erdtree, and we know that the crucible was related to great tree ornamentation, as shown by the Crucible Knights, and there are suggestions that the great tree roots are a distinct thing from Erdtree roots, so I do think that it's worth considering that a great tree existed before the Erdtree, and that the Erdtree might have taken it over in a sense. So I do want to cautiously put forward that theory again for consideration. However, moving on, last theory on the Erdtree, I do want to mention that shadow and darkness are kind of already related to the Erdtree via the two fingers. Despite how ironic that might sound, right? You wouldn't think that darkness and shadow are related to this tree that is all about warmth and light and abundance, but darkness does play a part. Servants of the Two Fingers were known to cast spells such as Darkness and Assassin's Approach, which helped them in assassinating the Tarnished that had strayed from the guidance of grace. Not to mention the Two Fingers, being these envoys of the Greater Will, were capable of bestowing beastly, living shadows to prominent characters, most notably Rani, who was given Blythe, and Marika, who was given Malekith. So the title could be referring to these shadows, but again, I really am throwing all kinds of ideas out now, so they really could be doing anything when it comes to the setting.
It's too vague, I guess.
So, what do you think? But moving on from the Erdtree and Torrent and their rider, what else do we see in this image? Well, again, there are these ghostly graves with holes in their center. And funnily enough, in a recent Secrets video, we talked about how From Software loves reusing these cut God's Grave assets from Dark Souls 3. And the asset...
I remember this video, like...
has reappeared in Elden Ring already. There's one grave just like these at Morn Castle, where you fight the Leonine Misbegotten. It's also not the first instance of physical objects having a ghostly presence in the world. You can also see this in Leyndell, with the ghostly flagpoles. And I'll be honest, I don't really know what this means beyond it being a sort of spiritual overlap of worlds, perhaps? Or maybe these are time periods that persist spiritually somehow.
We don't know.
I don't
know. In short,
and
we
then
don't
you
know
can
at
also
all.
see a couple of stone coffins in the image as well. These stone coffins appear all over the Lands Between, and it's here that you might have picked up a ton of runes if you could have defeated the wolves that often guard these sort of cemeteries. Anyway, I'm getting the vibe that there's going to be quite a long wait until Elden Ring's DLC is ready. I'm kind of expecting the worst, but hoping for the best. But
Yep.
I don't really expect a trailer anytime soon. I think the next most likely time would be around Summer Games Fest in early June. But then they did drop this random announcement on a random Tuesday, so who knows what From Software is thinking, honestly. Anyway, before I fall asleep,
I think they didn't plan this DLC. I think they just started working on it when they saw the insane success of Elden Ring. Like, this is why I think it will take a really long time till this DLC comes out. It must be at least like fall.
quickly talk to you guys about version 2 of my art book, which is Soul
Support
Arts,
them.
which is currently
Like,
10%
I really
off
think about buying this.
if you
to be
want,
honest.
until the end of March,
I need
as long
it.
as you enter the code SOULARTS10 at checkout. If you're unfamiliar, Soul Arts is designed to be the ultimate art book for any fan of From
This
Software
also is a display, I think. Yeah.
games. It enshrines the hard work of over 100 artists and tells unique stories that are inspired by these games. The book
Oh, this is good. This is good.
is split into 5 chapters, and each
But I've seen this ad like 10 times already, so I'm not gonna bother anymore. But this video is great. Like, so many theories, and that he can just get so much out of just one picture is insane. Like 50 minutes. I barely could talk about it like for like 3 or something. It's insane. I knew it. He knew it. And yeah, that's it. I would really appreciate if you would support VatiVidya, because he's the one who like created all of this shit, and I'm just the dude who reacted to it. But still, I would also appreciate your support as well. Like, I wouldn't mind a like, comment, and sub. And that's it. I guess see you next time. And that's it. Wafer out.